Welcome to Collecting Chaos, my Thursday show, my Thursday talk show. And it's my Thursday talk show, and I'm going to be doing some talking. In particular, I'm going to talk about collecting. Imagine that. Now, I don't think it's a big secret that I have a fairly large number of comics. I mean, it's not huge by my standards, although by a lot of people's standards it is. When people talk about, well, I've got 1,000, I've got 2,000 comics, and they consider that a large collection, and I've got over 20,000. Yeah, that's a pretty big difference there. So it's all a matter of scale. But in particular, what I want to talk about is, what do I look for when I'm buying a comic? Now, I have a couple of different standards that I use. I have several different criteria. There are two types of comics that I buy. I buy comics for a quick flip to make money so that I can invest it in other comics and for other reasons. And the other thing I buy them for is an investment. And when I buy an investment comic, I'm looking at 5 to 10 years before I consider selling it. Investments are long-term, whereas a quick flip is exactly what it sounds like. You buy it, you want to turn it over as quickly as possible, because the longer it sits, the more money it costs you. Which sounds kind of silly, but it isn't really. I mean, if I have a comic that's worth $2 and I have it for 10 years and it's still worth $2, basically I've lost money because I had to store that comic for 10 years. On the other hand, if I have a comic worth $200 and in 10 years it's worth $2,000, then that's a little bit better. This and that. Hey, John, how you doing? So that's what I'm looking for when I'm talking about the two different ways I collect comics. I collect for a quick flip. To me, a quick flip means I buy it now and I plan on selling it within 90 days of getting it, or 6 months at the most. If I have it longer than 6 months, it's time to just keep chopping down the price until I just practically give them away. And I've got a lot in that category right now. And a lot of them are good comics. I've got some comics that are $5, $10, $20 comics that, I've had them too long. It's time to get rid of them. Now, a comic that's worth $100, I'm not worried about a quick flip on that. If I sell it, fine. If I don't sell it, that's okay, because next year it might be worth 120. The year after that, it might be worth 200. You don't know. Of course, there are comics that do go down in value. They're a little more rare. In particular, I can think of the old Carl Barks Uncle Scrooge comics. When I first started collecting in the late 60s, early 70s, I couldn't afford them. I could hardly touch them because, you're talking about $30, $40 a comic minimum. Now, they're 10 to 15. Of course, it's 50 years later. To me, they should be, $100, $200, $300 instead of, but it's because collecting tastes change and what people look for change. So, yeah, it's a big difference, and that's. Yeah. So when I do investment, I look for proven comics, or comics that I think are going to move within the next 5 or 10 years. A proven comic is Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, early Flash, early Green Lantern, stuff like that. Those are proven. Daredevil, less so, but it is moving up. X-Men comics, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, all of the old Silver Age comics for the most part. Now, there's a lot of Silver Age that you can buy cheap and that don't go up in value. I've been buying a lot of Western comics, a lot of war comics. The Western comics, because I think it's their time. I think within the next 3 to 5 years, I'm going to be able to make a profit off of those. I'll be able to sell them and make money off of them. Western comics I buy because I like them. Or not Western, but war comics I buy because I like them. I enjoy reading them, especially the older ones. So it's all a matter of perspective as to what people collect and what people want. Right now, with them planning on killing off the Justice League, I do that because we know it's not going to last. Justice League comics are going to be, people are going to start grabbing them. How are you doing, Brett? The most valuable comic currently in my collection would be Action 252. Followed by probably Superman 9 or 19. I forget which one it is. I have a few that are worth a little bit of money. Then I have those are the most valuable, but then I have a lot in the, I've got 4 or 5 Supermans in the $1,000 range. I've got some Batmans in the $200 to $300 range. I've got some X-Men that are worth a chunk of money. A lot of Bronze Age I have are moving up there. I'm sorry, Jackson Roy Kirk, but it was this and that. Maybe I'll do that and this next time. But yeah, it's comics are, Hey, Bob, how you doing? Yeah, that one's on my list of things that I need to get. But was it really a Supergirl tryout issue, or is that something they decided after the fact? There's a lot of comics like that where they've decided after the fact, okay, this was actually the first appearance of this person. The Man in the Anthill is a classic example. That was originally just a horror story. But then they decided to make Ant-Man. And then a few years later, they said, okay, this was his tryout. But was it really? I don't know. The only reason that is his actual tryout was the name is the same. Yeah, Groot was in one of the Marvel horror comics in the late 50s, early 60s originally. And then it was reprinted in the 70s. And it wasn't until he joined the Guardians of the Galaxy that he became popular. Well, I mean, if you want the costume similar to Superman's, but it's a girl and you're in the 50s, there's only so many things you can do with it. You could argue that they had Lois Lane was Superwoman in basically the same costume. So there you go. It's still on my list of things to get just because it's a Superman comic. My goal is to one day have a full run of Superman. Although I don't know that I want any of the new ones. I might cut it off at 1,000 or whatever number. I might just go with the first run, and when it change to Adventures of Superman, stop there. But yeah, comics are there. Like I said, there's comics I buy to flip, and there's comics I buy to hoard, to hold on to long term, and everything eventually will get sold. It's a matter of when. And well, not everything. There's one or two comics that I'll never sell. And it has nothing to do with their value, their monetary value. It has everything to do with their sentimental value. The things people should look at, let's say, let's take a comic that's fairly common, that's worth a whole lot of money, which I don't understand. And that's Hulk 181. There were originally just as many Hulk 181s as Hulk 180s and 182s, and 179s and 184s. But for some reason, the one is worth over 100 times more than the other three. That doesn't make sense to me, because if anything, there are more Hulk 181s out there than 179s. But rarity does not equal value. Yeah. Well, you maintain a tight ceiling or cap on your collection. You have, you don't want more than 300 or something like that, and that's what your collection is, and no more than that. And I can respect that. That's a good way to do it. I don't have a ceiling. Well, yeah, that's my ceiling. Is it's the one that's above my house. When I can't move in my house anymore, when I don't have any room at all, then I have too many comics. Until then, no, I don't have enough. But no more than 3,000. Oh, okay. That's a pretty good size collection. You can get a lot of Golden Age, a lot of Bronze Age, and of course you like the pre-horror stuff. So, but we pick up some good comics. Bub's got a lot of good stuff. If you haven't checked out Bub's Monday night show, the No Faces Comic Chat, do so. It's pretty good. I try to remember to pop in every time I think about it, but more often than not, I'm working on other things and I don't get a chance. One day I'm going to be on there someday, I think, but I don't know when. My favorite comics of all time? I don't have any. Not really. My favorite character, of course, is Superman. Always has been. But as far as a favorite comic of all time, like I said, I don't really have any. I have what I consider a reading list that people should read, and it doesn't matter what versions of them they read. If I had to pick a favorite run, it would be Preacher by Garth Ennis. Partially because it starts and the last issue, it ends. And when it ends, there's no going back. You can't bring it back. Mostly because Garth Ennis owns the rights and said no. DC technically owns the rights, but Garth Ennis has to be the writer. There's some weird thing he's got over him that if he doesn't write it, they can't publish it. Go on there. Okay, I'm on No Faces now, huh? Maybe one day Bub will have me on. I don't know. I'm working on getting it set up so that I can move my camera around a little bit, and I don't always have to be shown. I have a few more things I have to change up, and then I can show just comics, or I can show and still do a live stream that way. Someday I might. We'll work it out sometime. Bub's been on my channel. I might invite him back. Yeah, they're trying to get me on the other one, cover slingers. Yeah, they've been trying to get me on that one for a while, but I don't wake up that early on Saturdays. That's a tough one. Bern Hogarth's Tarzan. Bern Hogarth literally wrote the books on it. Second favorite would be Neil Adams and then Curt Swan. Yeah, it wasn't easy, but yeah. But there's so many good artists out there. Russ Heath is an amazing artist. There's a lot of the artists that did the pre-code stuff that are incredible, that I love them, but it's just I can't think of their names off the top of my head is one of the biggest problems. For modern artists, in other words, anything published after 1980, that's a tough one too. A lot of people do, but Curt Swan defines what Superman looks like. George Perez is an excellent artist. There's no question about it. It's a shame he won't be with us much longer. I'm not prepared to give a list of my favorite artists. Wally Wood. He's another one of my favorites. I think Don Heck is a very underrated artist. For horror, Bernie Wrightson. Hands down, Bernie Wrightson for horror. He was the best. Gene Colan. Gene Colan's run on Daredevil is epic. And of course, if I don't mention it, Bub will never forgive me. For 1984 and forward, my favorite artist for that period, Dave Stevens. Period. Mic drop. Frazetta's a painter, and he's a great comic artist also, but I was first introduced to Frazetta on his book covers, his paperback book covers. In particular, a lot of his Tarzan stuff and his Conan stuff. Now, Franzetta is on a different channel. Oh, Dave Stevens is just incredible. And of course, Joseph Michael Lenzner. He's another favorite of mine. I liked Amanda Connor's run on Vampirella. And then the original Vampirella artist, I can't think of his name. But he was really good too. The one in the magazine. Of course, I do like Jim Lee's work. I liked Will Portasio. Why, hello there, Patrick Murphy. That reminds me, I have something to share. That I might as well do that. Or Patrick can just drop it in the chat, whichever. Let's see if I can find it. I know I have it in here somewhere.
Horizon Picks Auction, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, I cut it off because I don't want to lose my there you go. There's one item in there that are one set of items that is no longer available. But other than that, he did a really good job on that. We appreciate you doing that, Patrick. The Super Mario Brothers cars are gone. I shipped them out on Monday. Somehow that got mixed in with the other stuff that I have. But those will be there. The ugly dolls, I'll have those there. I'm going to offer them at an incredibly low price, and maybe somebody will buy them because I keep staring holes in the back of my back. I'm tired of them. So, yeah. Let's see. Of the current artists, with the exception of some of the cover artists, I don't like most of them. I don't care for most of them. Their art style has gotten pretty janky. It's like everything's too cartoony. Comics I think people should read. Of course, The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller. The Wolverine miniseries by Frank Miller, and which is surprising because I don't like Wolverine as a character, but that's just a really good story and should be read. For more modern, I think the Joker War was incredibly good and there should be read. I can't think of the other ones that I think should be read, but there's a lot of good ones out there. There's a lot of good comics out there. Gil Kane is, when I think of Gil Kane, I think of Green Lantern, because he was the original artist on Hal Jordan Green Lantern from 1959, 1960, something like that. But I don't think he's underrated at all. I think he's, if anything, I think he's right where he should be. He's people love him, and he should be. Jack Kirby is another one. Jack Kirby actually, he's not as good as a lot of the other artists, but as a creator, he was incredible. Yeah, The Killing Joke is another one, should be read. What was the other one? My brain is just not working today. Can't think of a lot of the things I want to, a lot of the miniseries that I'd like to think of. Crisis, the first Crisis on Infinite Earths, that should be a required reading. The story is that good. On the other hand, the Marvel Superhero Secret Wars is also a very good story. But Secret Wars 2 was, yeah, they went to the well one too many times on that one. So, too many good comics, not enough time to read them all. The American Century, that's actually pretty good. I'm up to issue number 4. Just don't have enough time to. My biggest problem is most of the print is so small, I have trouble reading it, even with my glasses. I end up having to get out a magnifier to read it. And it's a pain in the rear, so I don't read as much as I'd like to. Yeah, I mean, I'm good for 2 or 3 comics a day at most. So for me to read all of the comics I have would take the rest of my life, and it still wouldn't finish. But I've got some interesting stuff behind me that'll be offered up tomorrow. I've got some more of the DC comics from Walmart. I've got some Star Trek X-Men. I'll be offering some of these up. I've got some Star Trek up there. I've got some Iron Man up there. Seeker 3000. A couple of sensational Spider-Man. So that's worse than asking me what my favorite comic artist is. Asking what a book, my favorite book. From the last 3 years, the best book that I have read is one that I put off reading for over 20 years. But I finally sat down and started reading Pride and Prejudice, and I finished it in 2 days. It was probably one of the best books I've ever read. But yeah, I read when I get a chance. I'm doing so much right now that I don't have the time that I need. I need to just make out a schedule for myself is what I need to do. Because I've got a stack of about 40 books that I want to read. I've got a stack of about 5,000 comics I want to read. I've got some magazines I want to read. I've got some model kits that I want to build and work on. I've got videos to make. I've got games to play. I've got comics to buy and sell. I've got some graphic art to do for some games that we won't talk about that because I'm not allowed to. And some other things. It's just, I've got way too much on my plate. And all I want to do is get some time to go fishing. But yeah, there was one year when I worked for the post office that I read 3 books a week for the entire year, which is not bad. That's 150 some books in a year. Some of my favorite books, the Tolkien trilogy, including The Hobbit. So the 4 books. I've read those about 4 times over my lifetime. All of the Tarzan series, I've read all of those. Matter of fact, I've read everything Edgar Rice Burroughs ever wrote. I've read a lot of early Stephen King, but once he started doing his Dark Tower series and he started publishing these little mini books, like 3 or 4 chapters in his larger novel, I gave up on him. I should have given up on him before that, because he wrote some things like Gerald's Game that was just, it was terrible. Worst book ever. The Piers Anthony Myth Adventures. I believe it was Piers Anthony that wrote those. Another fine myth Adventures. Little Myth Marker. Those are good. I enjoyed those. Of course, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series. I liked those. I read the Executioner novels. I read the first 40 or 50 Executioner books. Like those, which is probably why I don't care for Punisher, because I always considered him a ripoff of the Executioner. Let's see. The Miss Marple books. I can't think of who they are, but those were good too. So I've read tons and tons of books. I just can't think of all of them. As far as my favorites, yeah, that's a tough one. Every book I read is a favorite for a different reason. I can tell you what my least favorite was. Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. I hated that book. I had to read it for high school literature, and I hated it. I still hate it to this day. I understand a lot more of it now than I did when I was a teenager, but I still don't care for the book. I guess you could say Gone with the Wind would be one of my favorite books, because I had to read that for English also, and I got it on a Friday, went home, had to read 2 chapters. Sunday evening, I put the book down and went to sleep. And the only reason I put it down was because I was finished. And all I had to do was read 2 chapters. I read the whole thing in 2 days. It's just, and when I went to school on Monday, teacher asked who read the 2 chapters. Everybody raised their hand, even the ones that didn't. She said, who read 3? My hand stayed up. 4, my hand stayed up. When we got to 10, she went, how much of the book did you read? And I looked at her and I said, I finished it. And so she kept me out after class for lying and asked me questions about the book that weren't in the movie, and I answered them correctly. So she was convinced that I actually did read the book. So her next thought was, well, what are you going to do for the rest of the time? I said, I'm going to read it again. So, yeah, it's a good book. Like I said, there's so many books out there that were so good. Of Mice and Men was an incredibly good book. Matter of fact, any of Steinbeck's books rate really high on my list of things to read, or things that should be read. Some of the books that I really like have been banned in public schools, like Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer. Public schools have banned them because of the language, because they're not smart enough. The modern teachers aren't smart enough to understand that the language evolves and changes, and what's not appropriate today was appropriate 100 years ago, or 150 years ago, or whenever the book was read. You want something really fun? Read some of the old Sherlock Holmes books that were written at the turn of the 19th century or the turn of the 20th century, back in the 1890s and early 1900s. Read some of those Sherlock Holmes books because they talk about things like cocaine addiction and the war in Afghanistan. The more things change, the more they stay the same. So yeah, I like a lot of different things. Lots and lots of different things. What else? Anyway, when you're thinking about going back, I got way off the topic that I was thinking about. Rock, metal, country, everything. I listen to everything. I don't have a favorite music. I have a least favorite. I'm not a fan of rap. There are exceptions. There are a few rap songs that I like, but in general, I'm not a fan. But I'll listen to just about any other type of music. I like sometimes when I'm doing something and I need something distracting but mindless, I'll just put YouTube on, go listen to one song, and just let it go, let it just pick. And I'll start out listening to Steppenwolf and end up listening to some type of musical. I don't care. It's all good. I like it all. I like jazz. I like big band. I like early rock. I like mid rock. I like hard rock. I like Lady Gaga. I like Disturbed. I like Five Finger Death Punch. I like Steppenwolf, Iron Butterfly. And I'll listen to Dolly Parton too. And I'll listen to all of them in the same sitting. It doesn't bother me. And I like to listen to classical music too. So I don't really have a favorite music. I like it all. Music truly is a universal language. It's like a piece of artwork. But instead of a piece of artwork, like a nice painting of any type, whatever you prefer, when you look at a piece of artwork, it should bring you an emotion. It should stir a feeling inside of you. That's what makes a piece of artwork great. Same thing with music. When you listen to music, that music should move you in some way, make you feel a certain way. That's what makes it great. Modern music, with all their pre-tuning and their computer generated, okay, this person's a little off key, let's adjust it so he's on key. Now that's crap. Because that removes the emotional part of it. I don't like auto tuning. It removes the emotions from the music. So I want to hear the little flaws because you can't hear them, you feel them. Same thing with a good book. A good book will make you feel a certain way. When I started to read The Stand, by Stephen King, I had to put it down. I got about a third of the way through it. I had to put it down for about 3 weeks because I had the flu. And what they talk about in The Stand is basically a super flu that destroys, every symptom for the flu. I had it. Every symptom that they described in The Stand, I had it. I had to put the book down until I was feeling better. That's how strong an emotion it. But if you think about The Stand for a little bit, he's talking about a pandemic, which is what we're going through right now. It makes me not want to leave the house, although I need to get some exercise. So if it doesn't evoke an emotion, it's not art. Comic books the same way. Comic books, when you read a comic, it should make you feel something. When you're little and you read some other comics, I know when I first read comics back in the early 60s, it was the sense of wonder. Here's a person that can fly. The bullets bounce off of him. He can see through things. He can make things hot by looking at them, Of course, I'm talking about Superman. There's a sense of wonder there, The guy gets a ring from an alien, and suddenly he can do anything he can think of as long as he has the willpower to do it. Yeah, Green Lantern. Guy runs so fast, he can actually make things appear to stand still. The Flash. It's a sense of wonder. And that's one of the things that I love about comics is a lot of them evoke that sense of wonder. Some of them are crap. A lot of them are crap. Let's face it. There's a lot of comics out there that are crap. A lot of them are just incredibly good. Anything else you want to know about me? And once again, I got off topic. I don't watch TV. I used to. Now I don't know. I got out of the habit of watching TV and I haven't gone back to it. Although I do watch a lot of YouTube. So I guess it's the same thing, right? And a lot of times I'll hear people talking about some TV show and I won't have a clue. But I'll get interested and I'll ask them what show it is. They tell me. And then when I see the video, I'll get the video. And then I'll watch it that way. And one of the reasons why I got out of the habit of watching TV has to do with Smallville. The TV show Smallville got me out of the habit of watching TV. Because I went in and I thought, okay, I'm going to watch this. So I turned it on Smallville and I watched an episode. That was pretty good, And it was about 4 or 5 months before I had a chance to watch another episode. And it was the same episode. And I don't remember which one it was now. And then 4 or 5 months passed, and I watched another one. And it was the same episode. I watched the same episode about 4 or 5 times. I never saw any different episode. And I just went, it's just not even worth watching. That and the reality TV kind of turned me off to a lot of it. So I don't watch TV anymore. I'm out of the habit. On the other hand, I'll binge watch things. I'll watch every episode of something if I can get my hands on them. Yeah. Ducked when the crook threw the pistol at him. Yeah, well, the stupid pistols hurt. They don't bounce off your chest like the bullets that are inside of them do. I did eventually watch Smallville. I binge watched every episode, every season. And it was pretty good. Well, once you get past the Freak of the Week stage, which was about the first 3 or 4 seasons where they just kept coming up with new, different people that were affected by this green meteor rock. And once they stopped doing that, it got pretty good. I also binge watched The Simpsons. I watched 31 years of The Simpsons, starting with their appearances on the Tracy Ullman Show. Straight through, nonstop. Every waking moment, I was watching The Simpsons. I have not watched an episode since. Did the same thing with Married with Children. Have not watched an episode since. And I love this show. I mean, Married with Children, I watched when it was coming out, and I really enjoyed it, but I can't watch it anymore. Sometimes you binge watch things, it's a bad thing. On the other hand, I binge watch Doctor Who, and I still enjoy that. Well, not these last few seasons that I haven't watched yet. I don't know how I feel about a female doctor that I haven't seen yet. Don't know if you can put that in the chat. I don't think anybody, I think I took all the permissions away from everybody, except for 1 or 2 people. And I don't have it on, I haven't brought it up on. That's what I understand. That's what a lot of people have told me. But that's why they canceled it the first time. The problem with Doctor Who was it was originally a children's show when it first came out. And its audience grew up with it and expected it to grow up with them. And it really didn't. And it's not what people wanted. Let's see. Let me get. What I was originally going to talk about was buying and selling comics, what you want to buy it for long-term investment, what you want to buy for short-term, what you just buy to flip and stuff like that. And for me, flipping is a little different than other people. A lot of people want to buy those new comics that are going to be hot that we can flip for a lot of money right now. I prefer to buy really cheap comics that I can flip for a little bit of money right now and make 10 times as much. and the difference between what I buy for investment, what I buy for speculation, and what I buy just to turn over quickly. Because I do buy I do buy speculative comics. I don't buy new comics for speculation. I buy comics that are 20, 30, 40 years old to speculate on. But we only got about 10 minutes left, so yeah. Warcraft, Ohio, good to see you. Yeah, good to see, and Dalesman, it's good to see you too. If you're not subscribed, there's a link down there, and go ahead and do whatever you're supposed to do. Come back after the show's over, leave a comment. It's supposed to be good for my algorithm. When I hit 500 subscribers, I plan on doing some sort of giveaway. I don't know what yet. I'll announce that when I hit 500. But it'll probably be good. Could be a comic. Could be a poster. Could be a piece of art. I don't know. Could be a toy. We'll see. We'll see when the time comes. We'll see. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. I'm about talked out for the night. Just want to make sure that I remind everybody that before you handle your comics, your toys, your cards, your books, wash your hands. Good for your collectibles, and most of all, it's good for your health. And don't forget to have a wonderful day. And we will see you tomorrow night. Well, I'll be tomorrow morning on my Freeform Friday show, but tomorrow night on Rising Picks channel, we're going to do an auction. See you there. And bye.